Brandon, you umpire high school baseball games around the state, right?
Correct.
So what is the most irate you've ever had to deal with a parent?
Parent, honestly, I haven't really had to deal with much parents. Just I've had some people yell at me, tell me I suck, but that's about the extent of it.
Pretty
honestly.
standard.
Yeah, pretty normal stuff, really. Especially I don't do a lot of high level baseball. I've probably done close to 10 varsity games, but no one ever seems to get too crazy.
4A, lower?
I've done a Des Moines North, Hoover, two varsity games, so of North and Hoover.
Okay.
And then I did some games up in Fort Dodge. So I've done a couple 4A, but mostly like 1 and 2A though.
Okay. So how about a coach?
One coach, in the North, I was umpiring behind the plate and against North, and I called a swing on a bunt attempt. I said that the guy went at it, and
that would be a frightening time to be confronted.
And the coach he didn't come at me, but he was yelling at me from the dugout, and then he goes, "I thought you were doing good until right there." I was like, "Whoa,
wow, you're doing a great job, but that was crap."
And that sucks, man, because you're in a position where you're not noticed until you do something wrong.
Yeah.
And especially where it's like, well, I never told you how good I thought you were doing, but I want you to know I did think you were doing good until now. Like that's really low. But would you say that it is more cowardly for a manager to attack a robot umpire?
Yeah.
Because that happened, ladies and gentlemen. We have already had our first conflict between a manager and a robot umpire. The first inning of the first game in the Atlantic League where these robot umps were used, a manager is upset with the strike zone that was set for one of his players. And I think he got tossed.
I'm sure he got tossed. They tossed you in the majors just for arguing balls and strikes with the umpire, not a robot.
And so I assume that
Good Lord.
he had to be yelling at the actual home plate umpire about the robot system, which obviously is not on the field.
Well, how the
earpiece,
robot works is there's an umpire. They still have the umpire behind the plate, but they have another umpire up in the booth who says strike, and they have earpiece that they talk down, and the umpire still calls it from behind the plate.
So the robot's up in the booth talking to the umpire then, right?
Well, no, there's a video. It's a video. It's not really a robot. It's a video,
it's
and
like
this guy's watching. Basically, it's like he's watching. Like if you've watched
it's like college football.
So it's like the strike zone that we've all seen on TV.
If you ever
and now
watched a baseball game,
it's
it's like that. It's how I understand it.
Or was it like the box, like
they have the little
like the video games when you're pitching?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
like they have that little box, and if it hits the box, it's a strike. And the umpire that's up there watching it says ball or strike to the guy on the field.
So as a baseball umpire, Brandon, break down for me why this guy would choose to pick a fight in the first inning with the robot umpire. Is he trying to light a fire under his team?
I don't
Did he have
know.
a bad
Obviously
day?
trying to scare the robot.
Honestly, he must have had a bad day.
Tell me what went through this guy's head.
I have no idea why if it's the first inning, there's no reason to be doing.
It's the first inning. Who cares?
I was just watching the Cardinals and the Reds game, and the Cincinnati Reds umpire did get thrown out of the game in the bottom of the first inning for umpiring or arguing balls and strikes.
Oh.
A player and a manager got ejected in the first inning of the game today.
It's just so amusing to me. That's like a football coach getting thrown out at the end of the first quarter. Who cares? Like even if it is the wrong call, let it go, man.
It's getting a coaching technical in the first half of an NBA game. You have to know strategically when to blow up.
There's no reason. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think it's.
That's what I mean. It's like if it's like the fourth inning or the fifth inning, that makes a little bit more sense because you've actually seen your team struggling or not look like they're playing hard or something. I don't know.
They're not getting the right calls,
but
kind of thing.
The first inning, you haven't even you just sat down. You just started watching just started playing.
And I also want to acknowledge this guy's picking a fight with someone who he knows right now is not making the decisions. For the first time in the history of baseball,
you're literally arguing
he's yelling
with no
at an umpire that didn't make the call.
Exactly.
Well, look, I'm sure this. I don't know if we can make this a shorter discussion, but because this kind of came up since the last time we got together to record. I don't necessarily like the idea of the robot. I think it kind of, because they've talked about this in all sports for a while, talking about some sort of automation. And I know the NFL just got rid of full-time referees, so they'll probably try and do something
After like
with
2
this.
years
Yeah.
of that program.
Now they're all part-timers, and I think that the NFL might be the next league to do this. What do you guys think of automation, like with this, with like robots and things like that coming into sports?
Do it. Go forward. This is
How are you gonna
I don't think
officiate? How are you gonna officiate a football game with robots?
I'm not saying in football, but I think in baseball.
The only sport that I see it even is baseball. That's the only sport.
But it already works in tennis. Nobody complains, and it works perfectly and accurately, and people need it and they want it.
But that's because those are black and white sports.
Literally
more or
the
less.
lines.
Yeah.
I hear
Yeah,
what
But
you're
that's
saying.
what I mean. In
My question is
basketball,
if
it's
this-
not black and white. In football, it's not black and white.
Okay, so my question was simply this: like, it starts in baseball, but if it works in baseball and tennis, I didn't know that because I don't watch tennis, but it starts there. What's it to stop it from going to basketball and football? Is it because of all the complicated rules that go into football and
Not
baseball
necessarily
or
compli-
basketball?
It's not complicated. It's too fast paced.
I think it's judgment calls in basketball.
But my point
football
is
too,
my
yeah.
point in fast pace. You can't if you're an umpire or a referee is going to make a call on a shot. If it's a robot making that call, it's going to take a little bit of time. That guy could shoot the ball, get a rebound, and he could be halfway down the court before you make the call.
Absolutely.
And that just doesn't make any sense.
I think the technology's there, though. I think we're underestimating the technology. But you're right. There would be some sort of like
there would be a
input
delay.
lag to be like seeing it and then processing to make the call. I don't even like it in baseball, honestly, because you have the thing. You're an umpire, right? So you know the whole thing with like strike zones. I mean, there's the idea that there is the one strike zone that we all adhere to, but certain umps have different strike zones.
No, yeah, and I don't think that there needs to be robot umpires, but that's the only sport where it would make sense to me.
Automation cannot keep taking
Because
jobs from our workers.
technology will fail, and they've done it a few times in that league. And the All-Star game, I'm pretty sure it wasn't working for like a half an inning. So the umpire who was behind the plate was actually umpiring the game again for about a half inning because the technology wasn't working. If you didn't have that, you just have to delay the game for 30 minutes.
And I don't think
to
you
get
should
it back to working.
I don't think you should ever take the human element out of sports, because the minute you start doing that, you're going to
People are still going to get mad.
Yeah, right. And you're going to have, especially with football and basketball, there's so many rules and the problem is we made it too complicated to where it's like we don't even know what a catch is anymore, what constitutes that. So, yeah, I don't think it'll work, but it freaks me out. We're just like, oh, we're going to put robots in baseball.
Yeah, I feel like people get mad more at the fact that it's a call against their team or who they like more than if it's a good or bad call.
There's more of a chance for my team to slide under the radar with a really bad call and get a big advantage with a human ref.
Exactly.
Well,
football.
But that's what I mean.
Football, how are you going to have
it
a
could
play?
be a bad call. I could be.
I'm okay with you blowing a call and
if it
me
helps
running
me.
for a touchdown.
If it helps
you
me,
blew,
exactly.
You blew the
There's a
clipping
blatant
call.
hold, and there's a blatant hold on the right tackle, and
How
my
are
guy
you gonna-
scores. They didn't call it. You're okay with that?
How are you ever going to have a game of football? Because there is literally holding
Every single
on
play.
every single play.
You would never get out of the first quarter.
When
I
you're
agree.
taught as an offensive lineman, you are trained to hold them. But they say hold them inside your face mask, like in the realm of your helmet and your face mask, because the ref can't see your hands. The only time they call a penalty is on the shoulder
when you
pad.
wrap around, exactly.
And so then you have to train the robot to be like, well, that technically is a penalty, but it's only a penalty if they touch the, like, there's too much complications. It'll never work.
Well, you can tell our interest level since all those other sports just trickled in, but that was our baseball talk for the week.
What about stealing first base? Do you hear about that?
No.
MLB is thinking
Yeah, I saw
about
that.
instituting stealing first base, which is what?
I don't know. I don't
How's that
know.
even
I
possible?
don't really understand it fully, but
Stay relevant, MLB. Good
but
job.
basically,
We're talking about it.
I guess if you have two balls and the catcher misses a pitch, like if it gets
Yeah, they
past
miss
him,
the
they can
catch. You
run.
can
They can
technically
run to
run?
first.
so
I
that
guess.
1 in 100 scenario.
Yeah, it'll never
where,
happen.
like,
It'll very rarely happen because the
where
ball
like
doesn't get
he
passed.
drops where the catcher misses strike 3 and you
Yeah.
can take off. Oh, okay.
It's
so
exactly like that.
whatever. Nobody cares.
It doesn't happen.
Cool.
I just
It'll
thought
never
that
happen.
I saw that and I kind of chuckled.
That is a stay relevant MLB headline where they're like, let's change something so that people think there's more people running and play going on when there's not.
We got robots. That's not enough. We got to steal first base.
They're just going to eliminate the bat next.
Yeah, you got to start throwing. No, you can carry the bat with you.
You can catch the ball and throw it.
Yeah. You can throw it back.
You'll
at
never
them.
get anybody out.
If you catch it when they throw it at you, the pitcher's
Did you
out.
guys-
Like dodgeball.
Did you ever play MLB Slugfest?
This show is brought to you by Loud and Opinionated.
Well, now that we finished up baseball talk, welcome to the Loud Sports Podcast, Saturday, July 20th. NFL rookies reported this week. We made it, guys. We'll get into that later, but just pat yourself on the back because we made it through another offseason. We'll start locally here. I'm Paul Ribideau here with Jake Williams
Hello.
and Brandon Plecker.
What's up?
We got some Iowa and Iowa State stuff this week. Besides just the awards watch to talk about. Iowa State added 2 more coaches, one offensive and defensive quality control assistant coach, Kyle Kempt and Joel Lanning.
Quality control.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That sounds like a factory worker.
Walk along the sideline, coach the
Grab him?
starter at
the
the
guy,
position.
the guy who grabs Nick Saban and makes sure he doesn't get a penalty.
That's what I was. That's what I was thinking. It's
Or
like
it's not Nick Saban, but
it's Matt Campbell in this
yeah.
case.
There
but
was
yeah.
a specific role for, I don't know if, I think Matt Campbell uses a wireless headset. I'm not too certain. But there was a guy whose specific role was to handle the cord and follow Paul Rhodes around because he would stalk the sideline and throw his headset, and this guy had to keep it coiled. And
I
give
watched.
him, it's really funny if
I watched
you
the
watch
guy. I
it.
was at the Kenny Chesney concert, and there was a guy doing that for the TV camera.
It like just
That's-
follows
yeah,
him.
It was pretty funny to watch.
The real MVP.
Yeah.
Is
He's the reason why
carrier.
this whole thing was able to happen.
Yeah. I like the move. It is the move, and you've heard me use this before, calling out Iowa State. I love Iowa State, clone to the bone. This is a move
There's gotta
of
be a better name for
this.
that.
No, that is it. Trademarked, man.
You
I
sound
love
like you're
it.
a clone.
Clone to the bone.
Anyway,
This is the move of a losing franchise. This is the move of a college fan base that doesn't have much success and is like, hey, remember these guys that were really good and fan favorites, and one of them's from the area, and they're just standing around here, so come support us because some of your favorites are back. It's not a moving forward move. I like the move, but I need you to find the best available people, not the local name recognition people.
well, I don't even know what their position is. Like we just joked about it, but what is it?
Kyle Kempt, I see this as him being offensive coordinator in training. I see this as an intern job for Kyle Kempt to get a coaching job either on Iowa State's staff or somewhere else within the next few years. I put on the rundown here, I saw a tweet once this was announced. Ted Flint, great Twitter follow for Iowa State fans. Ted Flint said that this fuels the conspiracy that Kempt was last year's offensive coordinator after he lost a starting job.
Yeah, I can see that too.
But the way that he kind of fell into that role of helping the young quarterback really makes this seem like kind of a no-brainer if he wants a role like this.
But I also disagree that it I don't think it's a move of a, as you said, losing brand or franchise. I think it's a good way to put player like people are really get excited about it, like, oh, I know who that is and I know this person. But I also think it's a way to keep them young. So because Matt Campbell, I think he's going to be there for a long time. And it's a good way to have those ducks in a row for when he leaves.
Is this him acknowledging his assistants are going to get poached if he's successful?
Maybe. It could also be just him filling a position.
Filling up on loyal young guy. Yeah, what is the needed requirements of the quality control assistant for defense that nobody else could do?
I
Have a heart and a brain.
Yeah. Be Joel Lanning. Have the
It's-
name Joel Lanning.
Yeah,
This is-
that's basically
that's what it is.
the
But
only
this
That's
is
what it is.
literally
Yeah.
the name of factory workers. Like, this is people that are in the factory to make sure they don't put out defective products. And that's kind of what they're doing in this? Is that what they're doing?
I will say that if Iowa State's defensive unit is anything but defective this year, sir. But I have to say, you are making someone a defensive assistant coach who played defense in 8th grade football and a senior year of college and nothing in between.
Yeah, the Lanning thing I don't think makes a lot of sense.
It's more of a name thing, and
The Kempt one makes sense to me. But Lanning, I don't really understand why.
I know Joel. Joel's a good guy. Joel loves football. And I support him, and I support this move. And I'm not saying it's a bad move, but I question that if you had to fill a assistant coaching role, is this the best candidate that was available for the role, is my question. Otherwise, I'm here for it. I love both these guys. I love what they mean for the program.
I think maybe not so much in college football because you have more players. You don't have the 53-man limit like you do the NFL. So you have a lot more players. But I think there's way too many coaches in this sport.
There's no limit on the coaches, correct? Like you can just bring people in like this.
We can have volunteers all you want. I'm
Exactly.
It's like like high school football.
They
when
only
you have
pay a certain amount of people, but
Like
you can have
8 coaches.
You can have Alan Lazard's dad show up and help out for a few years. Wink, wink.
I'm just someone that thinks there's too many coaches, and it's a university versus high school scenario, but it's like you can't get one of these guys to be like an offensive and defensive line coach. You can't have somebody do more than one role.
Well, they are different things, and they want to fit all.
I understand that,
and there is 80 people on a team, and
You need more coaches.
And you need a lot of coaches because you can't if you have the same guy doing say offense and defensive line, it's going to take him 2 hours to do the same thing they could get done in probably 45 minutes.
Just to do drills.
Because because they're two completely different things, and they're going to be working on two completely different. Because your defensive line is going to be going against the offensive line of the other team. Offensive lines that have plays basically just like the receivers do or something.
Yeah,
but
you just got to know when the
that's
guards
what I mean.
pull
They
in
can't
kind of
go
thing.
against each other because you're not doing the same thing necessarily.
No,
so it's a waste of time.
I know. I
almost.
just think there's just too many coaches.
But should every college position coach have an assistant? Do they
No.
need that?
No.
No.
Are you sure?
No.
Because college football seems like a very babysitting heavy sport where you do kind of need to stay
That's
on top
true.
of these
You are
guys
dealing
at
with
all
18
times.
to 21-year-olds. That's true.
But they
80.
don't need to be coaches. You're talking about babysitting out of practice.
Yes.
That's completely different.
I'm talking
That's
about
that's your RA.
I'm talking about your extracurriculars.
That's your RA.
Yeah, but is an RA going to can Matt Campbell rely on an RA to say, "Hey, these guys in their room at 11 o'clock because we got a game to play"?
Well,
Which I know is an unrealistic scenario.
Does Iowa State University need to pay a guy $20,000-$30,000 to be a babysitter?
I wonder
for 4 months?
Well, I wonder what our quality control assistants are getting because I guarantee you it's more than 30,000.
Somebody
but there you go. If it's
explain
more
to
than
me
that-
what it means.
If it's more than that, then that's even more to my point.
Because you're right. Because a quality assurance sounds like a babysitter.
Kinda does.
I just don't know. I'm still questioning
What are they, a guidance counselor?
What is Joel's role?
Yeah.
Less than what is Kemp's role? Because it seems like Kemp, like I said before, this is a career move for him where either he is going to be an offensive coordinator or he is going to move somewhere, but it seems like this is something that works from the offensive side more than something that is needed.
You said you
on the
know him.
defensive side.
Get him on the show and have him explain what his job is. That's all I want. Just explain what you do because I'm confused.
We can see. I can reach out. We'll see.
I'm
now
not-
that he's back around here.
I'm making a joke of it, but I do think overall, I think it's a good thing that these guys have jobs and they are still around a sport that they love and they're still around a community that has been very good to them. I always like it when players come back to schools and work within that system. I always like that.
But the flip side of that is that this is them acknowledging the end of their playing careers.
Which is
Because
fine.
even last fall, Kemp was in camp with the Saints. Lanning was on the Cowboys roster for a little bit
But
and then
that's-
dropped, and he was playing in the AAF. Lanning had a significant shot at making an NFL team this fall, I would say.
But that's not uncommon. You see quarterbacks that
That's a
have
personal choice.
well, yeah, you see quarterbacks that have very good college careers that just come back to college and coach right away. Most recently, UCF's coach Josh Heupel, he was a pretty solid quarterback in the early 2000s for Oklahoma, and as soon as his playing days were done, he played a little bit in the NFL, and he immediately came back to Oklahoma to be an assistant or to
Well,
be a quarterback coach, and now he's coaching UCF.
Boise quarterback Moore is on the Cowboys quarterback
offensive coordinator now.
Yeah, he's moving
Kellen
his way
Moore?
up. Yeah,
Kellen
he's
Moore
moving
is
his
the
way up the
offensive
ranks.
coordinator.
He's the guy in waiting. He's the next Cowboys coach. Is the writing
If
on the
Jason
wall.
Garrett,
When Jason Garrett decides to leave, because that will be the only way that Jason Garrett.
I think
leaves.
this is it. I think this is his last season.
It's
It should have been his last year 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones will not get rid of him because he was
because he does what
he was-
Jerry Jones
He
wants.
was Aikman's backup. He is a connection to the '90s. He's a Jerry guy. He's a Jerry guy. He
Well, that's
will do what
that's
Jerry
what I'm
says.
saying. He's not going to go anywhere now.
The
'cause he should've
Dallas
been gone 5 years
Cowboys
ago.
will not be successful again until Jerry Jones dies, and that is just a fact. It is a fact.
What is your we have gone off the rails.
I know. Let's
What is
bring it back.
Finish your thought. Define successful because they've won their division. They've went to the divisional round.
Yeah, but they haven't sniffed the NFC Championship since the
They
90s.
were one Aaron Rodgers miracle from the AFC from the
Des
NFC
caught it,
Championship.
Paul. Des caught it.
Turn your mic off.
No,
Brandon, where are you?
I'm just making a joke. Really, I don't give a crap.
He's not even.
about
You're
it.
not even talking about the same year. You're talking about a different year. Dez's catch
Dez-
and Aaron Rodgers' throw were
Oh
two
no,
different
you're talking
things.
about the field goal
The
at the
Des
end
year
of the.
was not the Mason
Dak
Crosby
game,
the
when
Mason Crosby Titanic field goal is that game where
Jesus Christ! No wonder they hate the Packers.
then they
That's
got-
2 times that
and-
they've done that.
and both times after that the Packers immediately got stomped in the following week where they ran into a buzzsaw against Atlanta where they
And then
couldn't do
Tom
anything on
Brady
offense.
got his 5th Infinity Stone.
I'm gonna catch somebody is going to attack me on Twitter for this, and it might be Jake right now.
Can we just
Before
finish?
we
Can we
get-
move on?
Before we get back on the rails, you brought this up. You did this to yourself. The Packers would have beat the Patriots if they had beaten the Seahawks in the NFC Championship in 2014. Brandon, I need you.
Aaron Rodgers was the best in the game.
Thank you.
They should have won.
We're a Brandon Bostic. Moment.
Some nobody drops the onside kick when we're up by 14.
You know
No,
what's
it's hard to
funny?
blame just him,
You know
though,
what's
because
funny about sports? We don't play in what ifs and hypotheticals.
None of it matters.
None of it matters until the final result.
I
So
will say more than Bostic. That is just that's a sad.
you know what
moment.
else, Paul?
It's McCarthy's fault
The
because he
Seahawks would have won it. They would have ran it. All right.
McCarthy
That's also true.
McCarthy takes his foot off the gas.
He does.
And he allows teams to come back because he doesn't put his foot on the throat. And that's why the Packers lost that NFC Championship game. Back to college.
You could say that
football
about
in
the
state of
Falcons
Iowa.
too in Super Bowl 51. Didn't take the foot off the gas.
I don't know. What more could you do against the
Why were they throwing the ball at all?
the rolling boulder that was the Patriots in that game? I
understand they couldn't run the ball in the second half, but good God, why were you trying to throw the ball and getting holding penalties and getting sacks? Like, just run the ball.
Kinnick's getting a makeover this summer.
No more pink locker rooms, or is that staying? Is that
I
No,
hope-
it's still it's the outside. or
That
it's
has to
the-
stay,
yeah.
right? The
Oh,
pink
yeah.
locker
Oh,
rooms
of
will be there
course.
forever.
It has to.
It's
a
actually
fry
really. It's actually
establishment.
really. I've been in it. It's pretty cool. Actually.
Does it
The
make
pink-
you
you've
feel
been in the
relaxed?
pink one?
Yeah, I've been in the pink locker room. What?
Do you feel more relaxed? Do you kind of go like
It's a really dull pink too.
Yeah.
It's not like a bright. It is. It's a very like.
no, it's not supposed to be a
Tired.
sharp. It's supposed to be a relaxing,
Yeah.
sedentary color that makes you a little tired.
I feel like that'd be the opposite effect. If
No,
you,
seriously, this is a psychological
you
thing,
play
and that's why
better,
they did it.
but you
It's a-
play
yeah.
you play better if you're relaxed.
It's less. From
Because
what
then you're
I
not
understand,
tense and worried about a mistake. You play better.
Brandon's a hawk expert, but from what I understand, it was done from less of an emasculating perspective and more of a make them not aggressive.
And especially for a second half when you're coming.
Yeah,
when
you come in at
when you come
halftime
in
to
at
that
half-
pink.
Yeah, you come in at halftime. You're already tired. You sit there for 20 minutes in this dark pink locker room.
Surrounded
That's
by
tiny.
pink.
Now, it's tiny too. It's not a big locker room, and then you have to go back out there and play again against a team that plays as physical as the Hawkeyes do
I
play.
think again, I feel like that'd be the opposite because I feel like that would piss people off. Like I gotta come back into this stupid pink locker room, and I just like they get
Well,
super.
now
into
you're
But by the
but now
time
you're
you
thinking
get
about
on
the
the
locker
field-
room, and you're not thinking
right,
about
right.
the game.
It works in the
So then you
it already
lose.
works.
Yeah,
it
so
still
then
works.
So then you've already lost.
It's still
Rent-free.
effective.
Rent free, baby. Pink locker rooms in your head.
Or you could just come back into a locker room and be like, "Oh, it's pink. Okay,
But the
whatever."
actual renovations that have happened this year,
I'm sorry, I
Um,
keep derailing the show.
I will say that I don't think that you'd have to replace 10-year turf after 2 years at an agriculture school, like Iowa had to do this summer.
It's because it's a
Iowa's
fake
not-
agriculture school.
Iowa's not an agriculture school.
I know. I'm
Never-
saying this would never happen at Iowa State.
'Cause
We know
that's
how
a-
to take care of our turf.
Turf,
you don't
not
really,
even turf.
You don't even really take care of it. Yeah, you just it's whatever.
AAH or AAF.
I'm-
God dang it.
A-
AHF is what I meant to say. Because ANF, America Needs Farmers, and then Iowa State says AHF, actually helping farmers. Because they're actually the agriculture school.
WMF. We make farmers.
Anyway, New turf.
But I think that I do see kind of like
He just smiles at us.
this is something that should be, and not like a talking crap from your rival perspective. This is something that should be kind of an embarrassment because how much money does that cost? And like I remember when Ankeny South High School was built, they built this beautiful brand new baseball facility right next to it, and then they didn't put in the irrigation system yet, so they had to rip up the whole baseball field and do it again. And that's just kind of those things where it's like, how did somebody who was in an administrative position in an athletics department allow this to happen? Because that's what it comes down to.
Well, I'm trying to think of how long ago. Like, was it anything to do with like the changeover in ADs, and there was not maybe as much thought going into that one. You know what I mean?
Good question.
I don't know for sure. I can't remember when Barta came in.
I know it's because of the flooding as well that was earlier this season that really damaged it earlier this spring.
There was a lot of rain.
And maybe you figure out a way to have better runoff around the field inside the stadium, but 10-year life and you have to replace after 2, that's not good, man. It worked out well because you're already doing physical renovations. It's the north end zone, right?
And maybe that had something to do with it too. Maybe, I don't know.
Where they're already tearing it up and they're like,
tearing it
well,
up,
now's the
yeah.
time to do it.
You
Yeah.
might as well just
Stay
replace
ahead
the
of
whole
it.
thing.
It could be that.
I don't know. I have no idea either, but
But there were about 30 pictures I saw on Hawk Central released of that's my show prep. I go to Cyclone Insider and Hawk Central. But they had pictures of the north end zone and the renovations and everything. It looks sleek. It looks nice. And I will say, I like the Tiger Hawk at midfield. I do
that's
like
been there
that
for
change.
about 3 seasons now. I think.
I like it.
Is it black now instead of
Yeah,
yellow?
it's black.
Mhm.
Black with yellow trim.
I like it. I like the push forward to make Kinnick better aesthetically. From a fan's experience, it seems like they are kind of acknowledging, and less of a, this is the way it's always looked. This is the tradition of the Iowa Hawkeyes, which kind of seems to get in the way sometimes.
They also added more seats over by that scoreboard.
Right.
They built more seats in there.
Right. So I see this as a net, even if you are replacing the turf as a part of it, it's a net positive for Iowa that you are letting the fans know, and then maybe all ticket prices go up by $5, and
Well,
it's a better
it
experience.
was
They
like
just had the renovations.
$5 million. I'm pretty sure it was a lot of money. For this.
Exactly.
Because they've been talking about it since I was at Iowa, which was 2.5 years ago.
Mhm.
They were talking about the new scoreboard.
Wasn't like
coming up.
didn't a few years ago they added the extra part, like the whole wave thing, like that was a part of
The
renovations.
wave?
Right?
Well, the wave was in 2015.
Yeah,
I
was
was there, so I think it was
recent.
15.
it's recent. I know that, but
Yeah.
so yeah, they just keep adding to it, and excuse me, goodness, something caught in my throat. But yeah, I agree. I always think it's always smart to have these kind of renovations and quality assurance to big universities like this.
There's a cool time-lapse video of the turf replacement. Time-lapse videos are so fun. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
Especially in stadiums. Like, have you ever seen them change the Jet stuff to Giant stuff? Or
I think it's impressive when you see like
It's cool to watch them change from hockey to basketball.
yes, I like
Yeah.
those. That's fun. Or you always get, the Sunday night football game, the final Sunday night football game of the year. You get the time, or it's the division. It's the first playoff week hosted by a first playoff game hosted by Sunday or by NBC. Cut that all, Jake.
no, I'm
First-
leaving it in. I want
first
I want
play-
people to hear
First
how
playoff
stupid you
game
sound.
hosted by NBC. You always get the time lapse of the New Year's hockey game that they play in a football stadium, and I think that's really cool. You always get to see that on NBC. I like time lapse videos; those are fun. Now we got some awards watch lists for Iowa and Iowa State as well.
I love how you never, ever, ever do any Nebraska show prep. The only
I send you this. I send you this link. Brandon, did you add things to it today?
I did.
Thank you. The show prep is set
I
up.
have my show prep on my phone because I have ad blocker
We get a sheet.
and I can't use my laptop. It's at my house. Why would I not just use the things in my home?
Because this is organized and structured in the
Anyway,
show prep.
who are the awards finalists, Paul?
For the meaningless awards watch list that mean even less than preseason All-Americans, I'll explain why. We have from Iowa, Makai Sargent. It's just Sargent, right? Yeah.
He's from Iowa Western. That's where I'm from. Go Reavers.
Interesting. To
Yeah.
Doak Walker watch list for top running back in the nation. He led the team with 745 yards, 9 touchdowns last year. He was 7th in the Big Ten in rushing touchdowns, and he was top 15 in total yards, yards per carry, and yards per game. You know, these lists are basically like top 25 projected returners at your position. And I think he's going to be a top 5 running back in the Big Ten, but I think that a big part of that is Iowa's play style.
Well,
Yeah.
well, really,
It's like Jonathan Taylor says.
really, Iowa. Well,
Wisconsin's offense.
Iowa doesn't run the ball necessarily the greatest. Like
They've been changing under Brian,
they-
and they've
they-
been morphing
they
long
don't-
term.
like it's not like they run for 250 yards a game like Wisconsin does. They run for 130, which is good, but it's not like so. Like, but they do it with 3 running backs a lot of times, 2 or 3 running
Yeah,
backs.
it's usually a
so
committee.
They're single players don't generally put up lots of big numbers to win awards like that.
But he was definitely the standout last year. I remember.
Yeah, he came out because he was like the third guy I think.
And he's
coming
a,
into
he came
the
on
season.
late.
and he's a JUCO transfer, so you know it wasn't like a huge
hard
recruit or
guy,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah. He
This
worked
is
his
somebody
way
to
there.
prop up within your program.
That was also their number 1 receiver from the last 2 years was from Iowa Western as well.
Go Reavers. That's
Easily.
actually a big thing that Scott Frost has been doing since he's got to Nebraska. He realized that the success for Iowa has been coming from getting JUCO guys from like Iowa Western. So he's been going in there too and trying to.
They're more
That's
adjusted.
probably the best way to compete in year 2 of a new coach is get JUCOs.
Right.
So I mean,
have
that's-
guys adjusted. But Mekhi Sargent, when I saw him at Iowa Western, I saw him at Iowa. I actually really think that's cool. And he's like the only Iowa player I'll ever root for, most just because we went to Iowa Western. Never met him, never talked to him, but the fact that he's an IWCC grad, maybe he did graduate from there, I don't know. But he was kind of the standout for me. Other than obviously the tight ends, he was kind of the standout from Iowa's offense for me last year.
Then after that, we have both in-state quarterbacks, Purdy and Nate Stanley, are on the O'Brien and Maxwell watch lists. Now, I don't have any notable Stanley things in front of me because Brandon added that a little later. But Brock Purdy last year, 7-2, and he was ESPN's True Freshman of the Year winner. But again, just like with Sargent, I don't see either of these guys as an actual threat to win this award.
You have a
I
man
don't
named
either.
Trevor Lawrence playing the same position.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Tua.
There's no chance for it.
Tua.
If it's anybody besides,
There's got to be a hype video
Yeah.
of that.
there's those 3 guys are the only ones that have chances of winning most of these offensive awards.
Nobody outside of those 3 guys and Herbert.
Yeah, and if he has a special season though, it's not even.
It's true.
It's
true.
But like Herbert would have to have a season like
Heisman.
ridiculous season to be in the conversation with those guys.
How about this? How about this?
I don't know if that's true. I think even if say Oregon goes like 10-2, well,
I think it's
I
true.
concede that because he's on the West. I concede my point because he's on the West.
Because he plays, no one watches the Pac-12 because they start their
Correct.
games at 11 o'clock in Iowa.
yeah,
So the guys on the East who are all the people who vote for this stuff because they're all the reporters.
nobody watches Pac-12 after.
It starts at midnight.
Right. It's incredibly hard to win an award from the Pac-12. Here's the most realistic Justin Herbert prediction. Mark this. There is not a single chance in hell that Justin Herbert can win this award because he either balls out and wins the Heisman or he doesn't win the Heisman and this award goes to Jake Fromm, Trevor Lawrence, somebody else. He either wins it all or he does not win it at all.
Definitely.
That's fair, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's where he is because of where he plays, and Oregon is not the number 2 in the nation that they were 6 years ago.
When
where-
Mariota won.
Exactly. When they were playing Auburn in the national title, and Oregon was, when I was in high school, Oregon was appointment viewing if you weren't doing anything on Saturday night. You're watching Oregon because they're playing under the lights, they're playing at a great stadium, and they're probably playing in a good game.
Great uniforms, fun to watch.
Oh,
everything about
every-
Oregon.
They could. I saw a statistic. They could have 6 full seasons of different uniform combos every
They
game.
never wear the same jersey twice
I hear this crazy stat
in a season.
every year.
Never
They
do.
say that every year it's always like every season it's always
Have
over
you-
100 uniform combinations.
Yeah.
Every season.
There was a game. This was a while ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, that Oregon played where they literally changed their uniforms at halftime
Oh, yes.
because it was super foggy that night And
They
so
were
they
wearing
went from
the
they went from
gray.
a bright and they went to a very dark green color. So they literally like meshed with the color of the sky.
Is this legal?
They let them do it.
I want Iowa State to switch to those sexy blacks at halftime of their night game this year.
But you can't do that under the lights. It's
No,
different. It was because it was so foggy. Like it doesn't. It would
We
never
have like
be able
a
to happen
matted
very
gray
often.
helmet or something. Put that on if it starts raining.
But
Something
that's
like
what
that.
there was something like that, and they changed their jerseys at halftime to a color that was very dark and very hard to see.
We're getting off track again.
Right. Back to the awards. Now, here's something interesting. These the final two people on the watch list from our teams here. I see these two guys as the only people with actual chance to win their respective award. It's AJ Epinesa and Jaquan Bailey are up for the Bednarik. Bednarik?
I don't know.
That's how I would say it.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't ask me.
I just see it on NCAA 14.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I see it a lot because my team always has winners,
I think that both of these guys have a legitimate shot because who is the one big name defensive lineman from college football last year?
Ed Oliver
No.
played for Houston, won the Outland Trophy. You don't know?
I was going with Bosa
Oh, Bosa, yeah.
because Epinesa.
No, because
Epinesa's-
Bosa didn't play for half a season.
They didn't even play for 3/4.
But he's the one that's on ESPN that they're talking about. He's the one that the average college fan knows about, even though Epinesa had comparable or better stats.
Bosa is a very.
10.5 sacks and 13.5 tackles for loss last year.
So I
Didn't he
think
have a pick six in one game? Or he
I
at
don't
very
know
least
about
had an
that, but-
interception.
I think
Or
they're
fumble recovery.
they're lacking
Scoop and
the-
score, I think is what it was.
they're lacking the name recognition with the defensive lineman award this year. Like there's no Bosa coming into the season. Like there
Solid
was
point.
last
I
year.
mentioned Ed Oliver, who's been dominating college football the last few years, and you're like, who?
Yeah.
His name isn't Bosa. I don't know who he is.
Exactly, and so it's going to be a little more open than last year, the previous years when there's been somebody like either of the Bosas or Clowney or somebody like that, where you're going into the season
Or Sue.
Sue, that's exactly. You're going into the season saying this is the one guy that dominates on a defensive line more than anyone else. We don't have that, and so there's more of an opportunity for guys like this, very good players on good teams, to be able. It's going to be an award that's given by statistics and not by name recognition this year. That's why I
Yeah.
think they have a chance, especially Epinesa. But, Brandon, I want to make a bet with you. I want to see if you'll take this. Because
Gambling on the show now.
would you say that Epinesa is a better player than Jaquan Bailey?
I don't even really know who Jaquan Bailey is, but I see Epinesa as a top 10 pick in the NFL draft this year.
Jaquan Bailey is a preseason All Big 12 first team, as last year.
He's Big 12, so it doesn't mean a lot.
I want you in on this now too. I
They
want you
don't.
both in on
They
this
don't
now.
play defense in the Big
I want
12.
you both on in this now. Would you be willing to bet me, Brandon, that on who has more sacks between Iowa or Iowa State's defensive linemen this season?
The whole team or those two
Whole-
guys?
Whole team.
The whole team?
Because I'll take the Cyclones and I'll stand on a corner with a poster that says, "I thought Iowa State's linemen were better than Iowa." We will do
What?
a shaming. That's what it is. We're not going to do money. We're going to do public shaming.
You're telling this with a legitimate belief in your voice here.
Absolutely.
There's some conviction in your
Iowa
voice.
State's
Just
defensive
linemen?
linemen.
Just linemen.
Just linemen. If I include linebackers, I still think Iowa State.
What's the metric? Like
Sacks,
so
total
overall
sacks.
sacks.
Overall total sacks all year long between DL and DEs.
What about TFL, man?
No.
What about
That's as straight up as I can make this. If you are listed as a DL or DE, your sacks count. That's it. That's the bet.
All right.
I would
win.
take it. I would take it.
I will win.
You think I will win?
Three-way bet, Nebraska.
If you want in, you can take one of these sides, Jake. The winner has to.
I think Iowa State has better. I think Iowa State overall has a very good defense. Now, would I put it above Iowa's defense? I don't think I would. I think linebackers. I think Iowa State has better linebackers. I think Iowa has better defensive backs, and I happen to think Iowa has better defensive linemen. And
I agree with your first two statements.
I would have to take I would take Iowa personally. I would be on Brandon's side on this one. I think Iowa has a better defensive line, and I'm not using that metric because they're in the Big Ten. I know what you're thinking, but I would say Iowa's better.
Food for thought before we move on from that topic. Now that you've made this bet, which team do you think is going to face more pass attempts in a season?
Iowa State.
Yep, that's part of it. Okay, so moving on, Nebraska.
Doesn't mean they'll get to them.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they'll get
More
to it.
opportunity. I think that's part of it. You have a better chance. You have a better chance if you have more chances, right?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, if you're
That's the most
if,
redneck advice I think I've given in a long time.
if you're basing it on just a number of
On opportunity.
of opportunity, yeah, they have a
But
better
that
chance.
doesn't mean that they're better, though.
we didn't say who's better. We said who has
You
more
just
sacks.
you just said
You
that they were
just-
better,
I-
and now you're going to base it on sacks.
I think Epinesa is the best individual defensive lineman on either team. I think Iowa State has the better front three because that's what they do is a 3-3 front setup. Like Jake said, I think Iowa State has better linebackers. I think Iowa has better defensive backs. I think that they're pretty comparable on the line because Iowa has the best player, the best individual force. But Iowa State, I think, has the better cohesive front. We'll see. The bet's out there, and we'll be held accountable because it's recorded. Something else that
I cannot wait for Sidehawk Week.
people need to be
That's gonna
held
be a fun
accountable
show.
for this. Who voted Nebraska to win the Big Ten West?
Now, I was
just put
looking.
WTF.
I
That's
was looking at ESPN's, and actually Minnesota is projected to have more wins than Nebraska.
That's funnier than Nebraska. Minnesota?
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Minnesota definitely, I think, has more of a
Minnesota,
foundation right now than Nebraska.
Minnesota literally was the same team as Nebraska last year. Young guys.
Yeah, and
who did-
Nebraska mopped the floor with them. It was like 51-30 something. Like it wasn't even close. It was a dominating performance. So don't
Is that this year or last year?
last year.
Okay, just checking.
They're going to row the boat right into a friggin' rock, and it's going to sink like the Titanic. I don't believe in PJ Fleck, and he's conceited, and I hate him.
From what I saw, it was Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa were basically all the
Yeah.
same in terms of projected wins this year.
I-
They were all like Wisconsin was down, and all the other teams were
a lot
down
of people
farther. But
have
Iowa,
Wisconsin third. A lot of people do.
but I saw Minnesota and Nebraska were about 8.2 wins, and Iowa was like 7.8 or 7.7, something like that. So they were all around the same. Those were the top three, and it really wasn't close between any of the other in the Big Ten West.
The poll that they're referring to is the Cleveland Plain Dealers poll, and it's a collection of Big Ten writers, and the voting is actually very close. Nebraska, it's like a point system. Nebraska had 198 points, and Iowa had 194 and a half. So it's a very close competition between those two in the West.
This shows the West is just a crapshoot this year. though.
25 writers.
They show
Picked Nebraska.
It's because of the style of play that it's hard to, because all the games are close, because the teams all play similar styles for the most part. That
I don't know. I
teams
think
don't, but the games are close because each team has the ball 6 times.
There's 4 teams that can really.
I
win the
think
West
I
this year.
think Wisconsin and Iowa have very similar styles, but those are the two that really match up the most style wise.
But-
And
but
then Purdue,
even if,
Minnesota.
even if Nebraska,
Illinois,
even if
and all
Nebraska
kinda
plays a
thing.
run and gun, they're gonna with Oregon, they're gonna have 15 possessions each. But against Iowa, you're still gonna that style of play wins in terms of dictating the pace.
Good point.
And so it doesn't matter what the other
Yeah.
team does with how they play.
But
You're not going to
Nebraska-
speed them up.
Nebraska's not. They run a spread offense, but they are running offense.
It's a lot easier to control the pace of game in basketball than football. You can't control your opponent's pace unless you're up 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Unless you're up 2 touchdowns or you're sacking them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only way
But
you
Nebraska-
can do anything.
Nebraska's style, although it is a spread offense, it relies on the quarterback and the running back. It's a spread option style. There is shotgun pass and stuff like that, but majority of the time they're going to run the ball, and that's just how Frost runs his offense. That's how he did it at UCF. That's how he does it here. I don't think it's that crazy, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Husker fan. I'm saying yes, 4 wins. It does not look great, but this isn't new to see a second-year coach have a successful season after a losing season. It happens all the time. What I'm trying to illustrate is, yes, they started the season 0-6. But where they ended up is a lot different. The second half of the season was totally different than the first half of the
Were
season.
they different players?
Yeah, a lot of players left, and he had to also work with freshman and sophomore players. And after all those players left after losing to Purdue, they went 4-2 to end the season.
Do you blame a college senior though that's 0-6 and says, you know what, I'm done with
If
this.
you go,
I'm not having
if you
fun.
go 0-6 from, I don't know what he was expecting, especially if he's getting recruited by Mike Riley, who's one of the worst coaches in college football. I don't understand how. I don't know how that guy ever got more than 90 wins. But
I'm gonna
I
find
digress.
a tweet of yours being excited for Mike Riley when he was hired.
Yeah, I'm excited for every season. Are you kidding me? I'm excited for every football season. I'm optimistic. But I honestly don't think it's that crazy. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think you're not giving Nebraska's talent and Scott Frost's ability to recruit talent enough credit.
I think that these
Look
writers,
at UCF. UCF, I hate, people always hate when I bring that up, but it takes a lot of coaching to take an 0-12 team to go 13-0 in his second year, go 13-0 and beat an SEC team. Granted, Auburn wasn't the best, strongest SEC team, but it still takes a hell of a lot of coaching and recruiting to do that.
Do you think it's easier to recruit people to Lincoln or Orlando? Nationally? Do you think it's easier to get kids to Lincoln or Orlando?
Probably Orlando, but that's just you're basing it just on geography. Probably Orlando.
We're basing it on everything that's part of the best college cities in America.
If you take a guy that has a legacy and says, "Oh, look, come play here," it's the same argument saying, "Isn't it easier to recruit somebody to Orlando than to Ames?" Of course, it's easier just on geography.
I think that the Nebraska hubris is kind of seeping in here, and here's why. I would say that
Jesus Christ,
we all agree here.
Iowa State would get buried in the Big Ten West.
That's a
buried.
joke. That's a joke.
You would not beat a 6-6 Minnesota team.
Iowa State.
No,
Iowa
neither.
State would compete against every single Big Ten.
No,
West
they
school.
would. They would.
But here's where I'm saying the Nebraska hubris is coming in. I think that, like we have all agreed, these writers see the Big Ten West as a toss-up this year between possibly 3 or 4 schools. And so what they did is based on the schedule that Nebraska has this year, they gave Nebraska the benefit of the doubt. I don't think.
Well, yeah,
Nebraska,
I mean, last year they went through a gauntlet.
Exactly. So
and again,
so there's no
4-8, including losses to Michigan and Ohio State, who are always in the top of their division.
4-8 as a favorite is in itself raises questions until you look into it and see, okay, they have the easiest schedule out of the West. That's why I think that it says they win.
This is what I hate about this time of year because it's all speculation. It's all just hearsay. I don't think it's crazy to think that the top 3 will be Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin in any order. I think that's where it's going to end up at the end of the year. That's honestly what I think.
Pretty safe bet.
Because I think
you're not going out on a limb there.
No, I'm not. But then you just say I'm crazy to think that I say that Nebraska will in the top 3, and then you say I'm crazy that they'll win.
There's a big difference between being third of 6 and winning.
Third of 6, third of 7.
Third of 7.
Thank you very much.
Third of 6 in Illinois.
I think no matter how the season ends,
what's Nebraska's non-conference?
It's lackluster. It's like
wasn't it lackluster last year?
It always is. They lost to Troy last year, Brandon, just to refresh.
I was trying to remember. I wanted to say Akron.
at least, and I don't care.
Troy.
I don't
But it was
care.
Troy.
It was Troy.
I don't care that it was North Dakota State. At least Nebraska has not lost to an FCS school. And I understand that North Dakota State is a very strong FCS
North
school.
Dakota State's a power.
Yeah, they are.
North
They
Dakota
are.
State has
They
won their
are.
last game against
But
Kansas,
you should have beat
Kansas
them.
State.
Yeah, North Dakota State hasn't lost an FBS
Aren't you
game
playing
in like
UNI
10
this
years.
year for the 20th season in a row?
Yeah, but UNI is a very strong school at that level.
Christ.
I'm not
But
saying
when I say it's Troy is actually a pretty solid school and has a strong foundation, has beaten LSU before, and the year before this, last year, the beating Nebraska, you just dismiss it. But when I say UNI, you're like, well, they're strong, FC.
I would rather have Iowa
talk
State.
about hubris.
Here we go. I would rather have Iowa State schedule a regional semi-rival that is a lower tier but competitive than a Sun Belt team that has absolutely no connection, doesn't bring up the fan base at all. Do you think more people care about Iowa State versus UNI or Iowa State versus FIU? FIU.
I don't care. I don't care if they play UNI. I don't care if Nebraska plays South Alabama, which I think is their first game. Could be wrong. I don't care. I don't care either way because that's what they are. They're nothing games. they're tune-up games. That's
They're
all
nothing
they
games
are.
until you lose one.
It happens. Teams lose to these. Occasionally that happens. It happens.
Depending on the team you schedule, it's not occasionally, it's all the time.
Not all
North
the
Dakota
time.
State is 6-0 in their last 6 games against Power 5 schools.
I think teams, they stop scheduling them too.
Oh, yeah. Why would you schedule North Dakota State?
Why
I
would you
wouldn't-
pay that much money
Why
to
would
lose?
Iowa schedule North Dakota State?
Brandon,
Iowa State?
why do you think Iowa is going to win the Big Ten at West?
Because they're more, have more
Experience?
experience. Nate Stanley is his 3rd year as a starting quarterback, and
That's exactly the first thing that popped into my head, too.
their line, their defense is going to be solid again. Like that's how they've always won.
They're going to reload on
Yeah.
tight ends.
They have the Mackey tight end who's never really played, but he's on the Mackey watch list as the tight end.
It's
So
funny that you bring up experience because
He's going to say the JUCO players that Scott Frost is bringing in have more experience.
no, I'm saying that
Better experience.
Adrian Martinez has his 2nd year in the offense. J.D. Spielman, who was a Mike Riley hangover that actually worked out, he's on his way to breaking some records at Nebraska, which isn't a lot because they were never really a
This is why you think you're going to
pass-oriented
win the
team.
division is because
You have
a
Maurice Washington, who's
quarterback
a
in
very
his 2nd year with the program.
and look what he did in his first year. With a 4-8, the bad 4-8 team, he still had the numbers that he had, and
based
still
on-
kept them in every game,
So based on your logic of
except
quarterback,
for the Michigan game.
quarterback and progression of wins for your team, based on what you just said, Iowa State should go 12-0 because Brock Purdy's in it for another year.
Why wouldn't Iowa State have a good year with Brock Purdy?
I can't. We're moving on. I can't do this with you.
You are literally getting mad at me for fighting in your arguments, and you're saying the same thing I am.
Absolutely
When
not.
I said you and I, you're like, well, it's better attendance because, it's an Iowa school and it's a totally different scenario. How? How is that any different?
Name me one Troy player that is right now made it to
Yeah,
because
because I pay attention to the Sun Belt.
Well, David Johnson's a UNI guy out here killing it.
Congratulations.
I think the UNI could maybe beat Troy.
Danny Woodhead was a Chadron State guy, and he I think he was on a Patriots team that won a Super Bowl. Nobody cares about that.
It's completely out of context for this debate.
I know. I'm just mentioning up players for teams that I don't care about.
Donald Driver went to what, Alcorn State? It doesn't matter. What
The
matters
greatest
here,
receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, was Mississippi Valley State.
what matters here is that I think that UNI could beat Troy.
I don't.
That's
I
what
don't
this
know
came
if
to.
that.
Brandon, third guy.
Oh,
That's
by the
why we
way,
have 3 people.
By
here.
the way, you make fun of Nebraska for winning their division, and I wanted to pull this up. Matt Campbell, his first season went 3-9, went 8-5 the next year. I don't think that's completely out of a possibility for Nebraska.
I would say that Matt Campbell first-year team probably had. He's going to kill me when I say this, Brandon. I think that Iowa State team had more cohesive upperclassmen than you probably have at Nebraska right now, because that was Joel Lanning, Alan Lazard, Willie Harvey. There were a lot of Iowa State guys that stuck around for 4th and 5th years, not quitting because their team went 0-6 to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear what you're saying, and that's a completely valid argument for why Nebraska is going to be better this year. But I don't think they have the internal brotherhood that you are thinking in your head that they have.
He had 50 freshmen and sophomores last
Of
year.
the non-Scott recruits,
And those guys stayed because they believed in his
because
system.
they're freshmen and sophomores.
But it's really hard to
Are
make.
you telling me no
They're
seniors
they're-
stayed for this year, Jay?
they're
No
fresh-
seniors
they're
from last
fresh-
year stayed for this season?
They're freshmen and sophomores, and you're trying to tell me an 18 or 19-year-old kid says, "Hey, you know what? We're 4-8. We're gonna. Why didn't they leave? Why didn't they leave when those other players?
I
left?
guarantee you that there's a freshman or two that transferred from Nebraska
If I'm buying
last year.
stock, I'm buying Frost. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to leave you out in the cold. Boom, and that's the transition. So some pro sports
We're gonna
talk.
warm up with some Campbell soup. You're welcome.
Brandon, we're bringing it to you because you are the Heat fan in the room, and that is the rumored drop spot if Chris Paul is moved from his blockbuster trade to the Thunder. Do you want Chris Paul on the Heat? Because I have his contract information here.
They literally cannot have Chris Paul on their team.
Contract-wise.
They literally can't because they couldn't even work out to get Russell Westbrook, and his contract is less than Chris Paul's. And Miami cannot go over a certain number because of the Jimmy Butler trade.
I'd rather
There.
have Paul than Westbrook.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't rather have a 34-year-old Chris Paul than a 30-year-old Russell Westbrook.
But if it comes down to you have to have one of these two guys at this point in their career, I'd take Chris Paul.
Why?
Pairing with Jimmy Butler.
Why?
Because Jimmy's a give me the ball
Jimmy,
with 20 seconds to go
And
kind of
Chris
guy.
Paul isn't that why Chris Paul won it out?
No, but
yeah, because he hated Harden.
Russell Westbrook is more of that guy than Chris Paul is at this point in his career. I guarantee that. There's an easier chance of
And
Chris Paul to say, let me run the offense and let me pass you the ball.
Jimmy Butler is not really a ball-dominant guy. He only is in the last 5 minutes of the game.
And so I think that Chris Paul...
That's why a Russell Westbrook and a Jimmy Butler would work more than a Chris Paul, Jimmy Butler.
I think that...
Chris Paul can't score.
From a talent point, you're right. But from a cohesive, shared the ball standpoint, I still think that Chris Paul would be a better backcourt partner.
Doesn't really matter.
We'll never
They're not
know.
going to get either one of them.
No. But what we will know is my prediction for this is just on here because it's the rumor, but it sounds like that's just the rumor because Pat Riley goes after all peak to aging superstars that are available.
They won't.
No, that's the right way to put it. He doesn't go after young guys. He goes for guys that are looking for their third contract.
That's not true. He went after Gordon Hayward. He went after Kevin Durant.
But those are guys at their peak. Those aren't what I would consider young guys, even though they're only 26. They're in the prime of their NBA career.
Well, that's when you would. That's off their rookie deals.
But the rookie deals with the extension. He's not going after restricted free agents. He's going after guys that have established themselves as all-stars and are looking for a second contract post-extension somewhere else.
Okay, wasn't that what most people do, though? I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, it's the only time that most people are allowed out of their good players are allowed out of the organization.
So he does what everyone else does.
He does what everyone else does to a larger level. He does it more often, and it's really his only way of building because
they're stuck in the middle.
Well, because they're stuck in the middle because he competes this way, and then he gives up their good first-round picks.
He doesn't give up their good first-round picks because they never have good first-round picks.
Well, who owned the Heat? The Heat's first-rounder this year or last? It was last season's. Was owned by Phoenix or somebody.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Phoenix had it was top 5 protected, and I know this because I've taken over the Suns in 2K. That they had a top 5 protected Heat 2018. And I just don't see this as a recipe for success in today's NBA. And we've kind of gone off the Chris Paul conversation into more of a Heat competitive
That's
level.
been my problem with the Heat since they lost Chris Bosh, I should say, because that Chris Bosh, that whole thing that happened really was a devastating thing because they had just signed him to a 4-year max deal, and then he literally just can't play anymore. Because that first year with Chris Bosh, they were the 3 seed in the East. Like, they were still relevant, and now they have to pay Chris Bosh. I think they just got out of it. Pay him $35 million to literally not even be in Miami.
Right.
And so what they did was they paid a bunch of guys these 3-year deals that weren't that good, quite a bit of money. So that's how they are average players. So they played in the average. That's why they were 41 and 41 probably average for the last 4 years.
I think Pat Riley doesn't value a good contract enough. He's too willing to throw money to get players. Would you agree to that? Because you can go back even to Alonzo Mourning. The Heat have been built, besides, the great pick that was Dwayne Wade, the Heat have been built on getting people to come here that we already know their talent level, then building ourselves through young talent. And I don't see that working.
That's how most teams don't get lucky. That's why.
That is 80% of successful NBA teams. You're right. But those teams that go above and beyond are the ones that get to the next level with the homegrown.
Because they get lucky.
Like Golden State.
They get lucky.
But Golden State built the guys that they got. They chose to gamble on Steph Curry and his glass angles. They developed people instead of just trying to reach in free agency.
But that's another point though, is they're getting top lottery picks. Okay, a lottery guy, even if he's 10.
Draymond was
was a different thing, okay? But that team was built on lottery picks.
Steph and Clay were top 12. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the Miami Heat's probably their top player was probably a 13th overall pick. So
That they drafted themselves?
So they have So they have
Because-
one guy.
Okay, I was gonna
so
say
they have one guy that's one lottery pick, and he's the last pick. Like they're always the
I was gonna say Dion was higher than that,
but he was.
but that
picked-
wasn't their pick.
He was picked by Cleveland.
Right.
But they've always been between 13 and like 16. That's their draft pick. You're not
It
going
was
to find a Kawhi Leonard.
Unwinnable in the NBA.
Yeah.
And unless you magically in back-to-back years
Pull out Giannis and Kawhi.
Yeah, Giannis
those are the only-
and Jimmy Butler. You know,
Yeah.
you grab Giannis and Joker. You have to get lucky in the NBA because once you get past
Because it's all about talent.
the top 5, it usually is a crapshoot at this point because it's all 19-year-olds. You have no idea what these people can do.
Exactly. Playing against grown men.
Yeah,
They're not grown men.
but that's our NBA talk. You ready to come back, Jake?
No, yeah, I was just letting. I feel like I dominated a good portion of the show, so I figured I'd let Brandon talk about the Heat.
Let him vent a little bit
Yeah.
about how they're the NBA's team most of all that just gets stuck in the middle. I think the Magic does recently a lot too, but the Heat, because of how Pat Riley desperately tries to compete, it does make them worse in the long run. Because why not just suck for a year? Grab all these horrible contracts.
You
did that
can't
once.
tank.
They did that once, and they took Michael Beasley.
Hey, he dominated K-State, man. He
I was
was
gonna
out
say,
here rocking
He's a
it.
great player for K-State.
Yeah, and then he went to China like 2 years later.
That was a legitimate debate of Michael
KD?
Beasley and
Or
no, it was
Derrick
Rose.
Rose.
It
Yeah,
was
you're right.
Would you take Rose or LeBron 2.0? Michael
Honestly-
Beasley. He's 6'8". He's a forward. He can do everything.
Honestly, either choice would have been bad because Derrick Rose can't stay healthy.
I'd rather have Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose took his
No, yeah,
Derrick Rose
between
took
the
his team to the Eastern Conference
Eastern
Finals.
Conference Finals, youngest MVP in league history.
but can't stay healthy.
There has been this viral Derrick Rose highlight video. Brandon, you might have seen it going around on Twitter in the past week or two, where it just shows his insane athleticism.
He was incredible.
Where it's just the quintessential Derrick Rose play for me is not a dunk. It's that wicked double clutch pass from the 3-point line where he goes in the air, fake passes, pulls it back, and passes again while all in the air. It's like how LeBron could, or how Michael Jordan could just hold himself in the air.
And
It's one of-
shoot from the three,
it's,
dunk from
it's
the.
one of the most unbelievable plays of athleticism I've ever seen. And
He defied the laws of physics.
it's just 30 seconds of Rose just molesting people.
Jesus.
It was. That's what it was. He was out here not being polite. And it was fun to watch. I remember the year of Rose, 2010, man. He was 23 years old. He was out here destroying everybody. Because it was LeBron's first year in Miami, if I'm correct.
Yes.
LeBron, no.
Was his MVP year.
His MVP was 2011. So, yeah, I guess it was. Because LeBron won it 2 years
Fall 2010 was when LeBron went to Miami.
Now that I think about it, LeBron was in the Heat throughout high school for me.
If LeBron did not
It's a weird
go,
factoid.
if LeBron did not go to the Heat, Derrick Rose doesn't win that MVP because LeBron keeps winning MVPs on horrible Cavs teams.
It's true.
So I think it helped Derrick Rose's career that LeBron went to the Heat.
I think Derrick Rose had a pretty incredible year.
He was.
I don't know if
Yes,
it would have mattered.
absolutely. You're 100% right. And the NBA is all about narratives and who has the hot year. We know that.
Yeah, because I mean, look at like James Harden and Russell Westbrook. They're always in.
Yeah, Russ won it on a terrible team.
Yeah, they're always in consideration for
Right.
that.
Russ won MVP on a team that was like the 7 seed.
Russell Westbrook in his MVP year is like the only time in the past 20 years that the MVP was not top 2 in their conference standings. I'm fairly confident that's correct.
And another thing,
Because even Dwight Howard, the Magic were killing it that
because
year.
now
Like all
because
these things.
now Russell Westbrook has now done the same thing that won him the MVP that first year, 3 years in a row, and he hasn't even been in the conversation.
Because it doesn't correlate to team success. It was
But it
cool,
didn't that year either.
but it was cool, and it hadn't been done in 40 years,
And now he's done it 3 years in a row.
and it's not cool. We're used to it. But the NBA is about narratives, but I think part of it is that we know that this isn't successful as a team for Russ. But now to the other pro sport that we still have to talk. I want to paint you guys a picture of me these past few weeks. I've been sitting beside my window, staring out at the rain, thinking, when will the NFL come back? And now we're back.
We're not going to play the whole thing because we're going to get a copyright strike.
That was me sitting by my window, staring out at the rain, wishing for the NFL. And we have teams that we have one team that already has everybody in camp. Rookies have reported for the Broncos, Ravens, Cardinals, and Seahawks. And the Broncos veterans are there as well. And the Falcons veterans are there Sunday. The rookies are already there. Lions and Saints yesterday brought rookies into camp. All 23 teams. Or 23. All 32.
I was like, wait, what?
All those dyslexic teams. All 32 teams will have veterans reported by the 26th. And, we're 13 days right now, tonight, Friday night. So by the time you're listening to this, we're 12 days from preseason football. And that's why Broncos vets are already there and Falcons vets are there soon because they are the Hall of Fame game this year. So they have to have their guys there a little earlier. But we made it. Hard Knocks is right around the corner. Football is back. How happy are you?
It's not back.
It's back.
It's not back until I can watch it on TV. And it's not preseason. I'm actually more excited about college football because college football, it's almost a month away because they're starting on the 31st this year of August.
Football is back in the way that you're excited when you get the notification that Jimmy John's is on its way.
It's not quite there yet.
It has been put together.
I would say pizza. Pizza excites
But
me.
you know what I mean.
I know. I got the metaphor. Yeah.
You know it's coming, and it's only a short matter of time.
When you can track, it's like Amazon when you track in your package.
That is what Hard Knocks is.
Yeah.
We're tracking the preseason.
You see it coming. I'm excited. I am, but it's also like it's the same thing of like I'm excited because I'm also upset because I love the summer and I love the summertime stuff. But then I remember, I'm an adult, so that doesn't really matter anymore. So now I'm more excited about football because fall is my favorite season of all, and I just rhymed. Dr. Seuss. I'm more excited about proving you wrong this season.
I'm very excited for us to do a full
Tampa Bay
season of
will win the
football.
NFC South. It's exciting times, baby. I got Scott Frost. I got Bruce Arians.
You should celebrate if Tampa finishes third in their division. You should
That's
celebrate.
kind of what I was thinking.
I'll celebrate if they go 8-8. I'll celebrate if they go.
You should
8-8.
celebrate if they go 6-10 and third in their
By
division.
the way,
6 and 10 won't get third.
no, they'll be fourth.
That'll be fourth.
6 and 10 will be
They're in
fourth.
a division
In
with
the
the
NFC
Falcons,
South?
the Saints,
Yeah.
and the Panthers.
6 and 10.
I see
won't.
the
6 and
Falcons
10.
is continuing to regress, though.
I
There's a chance the Falcons are a 5-win dumpster fire.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna say yes because I hate the Falcons, but I'm also gonna say no because I'm
More than
a
the other
realist.
two in the division.
I
Saints
think,
are still
I
the
think
Saints.
Carolina
Saints
has
will-
a better chance of going down than
I think
Atlanta
Carolina
does.
has the best chance of going up.
They do. Carolina went 15-1 and then they went 7-9
I think they're going to.
because of their quarterback. He's not really a great thrower.
We had a crazy shoulder injury last year that he was
Yeah,
basically at the end of
but
the year.
like,
He's like, I don't even know what's wrong with me.
Because of Cam Newton. He's a great player, but he's not that great of a thrower.
And you also have to think of his size.
It's kind of hard to. The Carolina's a weird team where you don't know, and they don't have great receivers either.
And
their
and because
receivers are
of
bad.
and because of his size, he doesn't get the penalties other quarterbacks do. So when he gets knocked around, it's like legitimate,
That's
and-
100% true.
and it affects the team.
Cam takes punishment.
I'm just messing around. I have no idea where Tampa Bay is going to end up. And like I said, 8-8, I'll be totally fine with. Totally okay with that.
My just off the wall prediction.
Aim high.
Tampa Bay has 4 wins and let Jameis go after this year, and then
Should've
next
let him
year.
go last year.
Next year is the development year, and then maybe in 2 years Tampa Bay's competing after 2 more seasons.
I'm just saying, Bruce Arians took an Arizona Cardinal team that wasn't very good and took them to an NFC Championship. So, and
You-
consistently put them in the playoffs.
But you don't have those players. This is an older.
Yes,
Bruce
they don't
Arians.
have a David Johnson.
This
And
is-
yes, they don't have a Kurt Warner or
This is an-
Carson Palmer.
This is an older Bruce Arians, and I don't think he's going to
Just
work well
because
with
he's older
Jameis.
doesn't mean he's not. What? No, It's gonna be good.
I
for
don't think
Tampa.
he's gonna mesh with Jameis. I think he's gonna be like, get this
He
irresponsible.
wanted to keep Jameis, and I think it's he's a quarterback guru. That's what he does. He develops quarterbacks. That's what his whole career has been about.
Would you rather move forward than Jameis or?
Matter of fact, he's already got a ring because he's with the Steelers when they beat the Cardinals.
Yeah, their first one. Yeah. Would you rather have a 4-8 season and move forward with developing Jameis and Bruce's relationship, or 2 or 3 wins and get one of these top
No,
quarterbacks?
this is it for Jameis.
Would you rather
in
have
my opinion, last year was it for Jameis.
Tua, Herbert, Hurts?
Well,
Not
yeah,
Hurts.
I'll go after them.
Herbert. Herbert's an NFL quarterback.
I think Herbert would work well with Bruce Arians.
I think so too.
Herbert's better than Tua.
I think
in the
Herbert.
NFL.
I think Herbert is a better version of Jameis, where you're getting a bigger running athlete. Well, because Jameis isn't even
I
that
think
much of a
Tua's
runner, but a
great
bigger
for
guy.
Alabama.
No, Tua's a great college quarterback. I'm saying Herbert's a better NFL quarterback.
I don't think Tua will project to the NFL that well.
I think he'll be a top 10 pick.
Oh, he'll be a good pick, but I mean as a career. I don't.
No,
think he's
I agree. I don't think he will be. I don't think he's going to be a.
Can you tell we're ready
Pro
for the
Bowler.
season to start?
so ready for the season.
Oh, did you see
I
what
hate
I wrote
you.
down?
I hate you right now. I hate you so much. Well, we're starting a new segment, and I kind of sprung this on you guys today. So if you're not ready, that's okay.
Oh, I'm ready.
But our new segment, Update Your Resume, for somebody in the sports world that might need to be looking for a new job in the near future. Could be a player,
I can't wait to do
coach,
mine.
somebody in administration. For me this week, somebody, I don't know who, somebody in the NFL discipline office needs to update their resume because they are choosing to not discipline Tyreek the same week that they are giving Rock Thomas, Vikings running back, 3 games for marijuana possession. Granted, it was over 100 grams of marijuana
Good
and a
lord.
gun charge.
Goodness gracious.
100 grams.
Who needs that much weed?
He was moving weight. That's all that means. That's all that means.
Yeah.
But
I feel
Last-
like, he was
But last
dealing
fall,
some drugs
Jimmy
there.
Smith from the Ravens got 4-game suspension for, quote, threatening and emotionally abusive behavior towards his girlfriend. We have audio of Tyreek saying what he's going to do to her, and they chose to not punish. This is
I see.
Did Tyreek? I thought Tyreek was the one who abused the kid.
See,
there's audio of Tyreek of her saying you hit our kid, you're a horrible father, and he says back, girl, watch your play so you're gonna catch these hands too. I'm dangerous. You don't know what I can do.
Jeez.
Like it's very aggressive and
See, I don't know about that because I've been watching it. I've been watching it most of the day, and nobody has found the Chiefs, the NFL, and the police department have all said there's nothing here.
They
the
didn't
media,
have like hard evidence.
the media has given us this one segment that says, yeah, you better be terrified of me.
yeah.
But that whole 10-minute video is from a lot of people. I've heard it from multiple people say that one little sentence is a lot like that's blown out of proportion compared to the entire actual conversation of that incident.
I hear your point.
And I understand I think he probably should have been suspended because the rule says threatening behavior. That is a
it's
threat.
the precedent
that
you've
is-
set with other players.
That's.
But all of these other cases, the guy, the police, he has been punished by the police, and no one, the Chiefs got rid of Kareem Hunt immediately. Like that's
Right.
where I see it as the Chiefs are a no nonsense organization, and they're sticking with Tyreek Hill, which makes me think that
Their receivers are weak though.
now listen. They didn't care. They didn't have a running back either, and they got rid
they
of
had
Kareem
good
Hunt.
running. Spencer Ware is a more than adequate backup.
That's a whole different story for a different day.
Yeah. Okay.
I hate to make it sound that way, but I do think that part of this decision is the Chiefs'
I-
weak
I-
receiving core.
I think it is
I don't
too.
think that if given the opportunity, the team or the police department of Kansas City would choose to look harder to find something when it doesn't look like there's anything.
There's also video of the girlfriend saying that she's the one who broke the arm of the kid. Like that's another point. Like there is conflicting evidence.
I don't know their relationship. I am not disagreeing.